Alrighty guys, in this video we are going to create a virtual environment inside of a folder, and then after that we're going to create a Flask app out of it. So first thing first, I created me a new folder over here. It's called Scully, and I am going to first of all create my virtual environment. Alright, so I'm going to open a command prompt over here. You can also do this in Visual Studio Code if you'd like. Alright, so from here I'm going to go into that folder that I created. So I need to, for me, it's on my desktop. And to get into my desktop, I have to change directory into my OneDrive folder. Then I have to change directories into my desktop. So if at any point you want to see what is in a certain directory, just type dir and hit enter. And that will show you everything that's in that current directory. So this is where I want to be because right here is my folder named Scully. All right. So now I'm going to actually CD into that. All right. So I'm in there. Now I'm going to create my virtual environment. So I'm going to say Python-m venv, and I'm going to name it Scully env. Take just a minute. It's going to create some files. And it's done. All right, now we have to activate that virtual environment. So I am going to change directory. So let me make something clear. Let's type dir. So if you notice, when we ran that command up here to create the virtual environment, it actually created a new folder inside of my Scully folder. And this one is the name of the environment. I'm going to CD into that. All right, now if I type dir, what's in here? Well, I've got a couple files in here and folders and such. I'm going to CD into this scripts folder. All right, now I'm in there. I'm going to hit the dot / activate. Now that's activated my virtual environment. So now over here in parentheses is the name of my virtual environment. And then there's the rest of my prompt that's always there. And if you see this virtual environment name over here in parentheses, that means you are currently in it. It is activated. All right, so now that we've activated the virtual environment, we need to create the rest of the structure for our Flask app. All right, I'm going to leave this open. I'm not going to close this, but I'm going to minimize it. Now we need to create some Python files in here inside of this folder. So I am following along with a fantastic tutorial. Here it is. And I will put the link to this in the description of this video. All right, so we are going to follow along with him. So we have already created our virtual environment, and that's what a lot of this is doing here. I'm going to skip some of this. So he made this outer directory called microblog. That would be like my Scully folder. All right. He created a virtual environment. We activated the virtual environment. Now we're going to pip install Flask. All right. So let's go ahead and grab this up here. So I'm just going to say pip install Flask. I'll actually just type it in. And even if you've already done this like once on your regular machine, you have to pip install it because now it's doing it inside of the virtual environment. So it's not installing it on your computer, it's installing it in that environment that you just created. All right, so I've pip installed that. And let's see what we have to do next. So we're going to go inside of our main folder and create another folder called app. So let's do it. So I'm going to go my Scully folder. Oh, okay. I think I'd actually done this just a second ago. So all I do have is I do have my app folder in here and there's nothing in it. So you would right click and go to new folder, right? And name it app. It does need to be named that specifically. So what we're going to do now is go into the app folder. And now this is where we want to create a first Python file. All right, so I'm actually going to come down here. I'm just going to open idle. You can use Visual Studio Code, whatever you want to use. I'm going to go to new file, and it needs to be named a specific thing. Let's go to save as. It needs to be in my Scully folder. So let me go there in my Scully folder, in my app folder. And I'm going to name it underscore underscore init underscore underscore. All right, I'm going to click save. And to make my life easy, I'm just going to close this and grab the code directly from here and paste it in. All right, so this is going to import the Flask class from the Flask module. It's going to create an instance of our Flask object, which is essentially creating this whole application for us. And we're going to name it app. All right, and in a second, we're about to create this folder called roots. And once we do, we're going to be able to import all of the roots from that Python file into this one. So that's why you see that. Let's go ahead and save it. All right, I'm going to minimize that one. Actually, first, I'm going to go to File, New File. Then I'll minimize this one. All right, so let's keep going. Next, we need to create that routes page or Python file. All right, so it's going to be in the app folder. So I'm going to come here. I'm going to go to File, Save As. I'm still in my app folder, so I'm going to name this routes. R-O-U-T-E-S, all right, and save. I'm going to grab this code and paste it in. So what this is going to do is that Flask app that we just created in the last Python file, it's going to import it in here. So from the folder called app, import that Flask app that we just created. All right, these are saying that, hey, eventually this is going to be a URL that we're going to go to in a web browser. So we're not going to see this Python file like we see all of our other ones. We're going to open it with a web browser. And these are going to be the different URL paths that are going to take us to our page that's going to say, hello world. Right? If you don't understand now, it'll make more sense to you in a little bit. So let's go ahead and save it. And we have one more Python file that we need to make. This one is not going to be in the app folder. It's going to be in our outer folder. So mine was called Scully. All right, so I'm no longer going to be in app. I'm going to be in Scully. And let me go ahead and come down here. From this one, whoops, sorry. From this one, I'm going to go to File, New File. I'm going to save it in my Scully folder. And this needs to be named whatever this outer folder is named. So this is essentially your whole project name right here. For me, it's Scully, all right? So I'm going to name this Python file Scully, and that's it. And it'll get the py file extension. So this name here should match the name of the folder that it's in. And I'm going to click Save. And there's just a tiny bit of code that we need to put in here. And it's this from app, import app. And I'm going to save that. All right, so I'm going to minimize all these. And let's check out our folder structure. So this is my outer folder called Scully. In here, I have a folder called app. I've got my virtual environment folder, and I have my scully.py file. If I open app, I have an init file and a routes file. All right, make sure you've got those double underscores with the init. That's how you want it to be. So what we're going to do now is we are going to change directories back into our main project file. So this one right here, Scully, all right? And in order to go back a directory, like instead of being in scripts, we want to go back to Scully environment. Then we want to go back to the Scully folder. We say cd space and then 2 dots. That'll take us back one folder. And I need to do it again. All right. So now I'm in my main project folder. And I'm going to say, oh, there's one thing we forgot to do. About got ahead of myself. We need to export or set, I'm sorry. In Windows, we want to use the set command. So I'm going to come into my command line here. I'm going to type in set space. I'm going to paste that in, but my app is not called that. My app is called scully.py. And I'm going to hit enter. That looks like it worked. Now I'm going to type Flask run. All right, fantastic. So it's given me this URL here, and in order to check it out, I'm going to copy it and I'm going to paste it into any web browser and hit enter, and voila, there is our first Flask web page. All right, so obviously if I went over here into my code, I want to go into my routes and I'll say maybe hello Python students. All right, I could spell. There we go. Let's save it. And now I probably can just refresh this. You may have to run it again. So I did save it. So let me come back over here. I'm going to hit Control C to stop this. And then I'm going to run that Flask run command again. And let me try it now. There we go. All right, so that is pretty much the beginning of it. If you've gotten this far, then you have most of it set up. The only thing that we'll do from here on out is create more files and folders in a specific way so that we can have some HTML templates, and we can make it look pretty and not just this black text on the white screen. All right, and I will make another video on that soon.